Hey everybody, so in this video I wanted to talk about Nvidia earnings. Now I'm not going to do a super deep dive on the company, I'm just going to cover this quarter's earnings. Now just full disclosure, I don't really follow Nvidia all that closely, their company specific news. I am just going to look at their financials right now. So Nvidia basically announced their first quarter for fiscal 2023. Keep in mind that not all companies follow the calendar year. So here we see that Nvidia is a little bit ahead. So the one thing I do want to point out right away is just this little table that they gave us. So here we can see Q1 fiscal 2023, and then they give us Q1 fiscal 2022, so we could compare year over year. They also give us the prior quarter, so we could do a quarter over quarter comparison. So now keep in mind all numbers are in millions except earnings per share. So here with the revenue, we see 8,288,000,000 for Q1 fiscal 23. Q1 fiscal 22 was 5,661,000,000. So year over year, they're up 46%. And then if we're comparing these two quarters right here, then they're up 8% quarter over quarter. Now, if we're looking at gross margins, nothing's really changing that much here. As you can see, just like minor little fluctuations here and there. So operating expenses, the one thing I do want to point out right away is that this operating expense went up significantly for Q1 fiscal 2023. And when we're comparing to Q4 especially, it went up significantly. So we want to figure out, well, why did this happen? So if I scroll up a little bit here, now I'm going to zoom in just a little bit for you guys. We can see that they had an acquisition termination, and this cost them about 1.35 billion. So this affected earnings per share by about 52 cents for the diluted figure. Now we can scroll down here a little bit, and then we can see that charge. So if I go into the condensed consolidated statement of income right here, as you can see, we are going to look for that charge. So acquisition termination cost, that is 1,353,000,000, as you can see right here for this quarter. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into this little spreadsheet that I made. So here what I did was basically got 2023, and then they also gave us guidance too. So they gave us Q2 guidance, and I went ahead and input this. Now, just to show you guys real quick, I can show you where exactly they said what the guidance was, just so you know that I'm not just pulling these numbers out of my ass. So right here, Outlook, Nvidia Outlook for the second quarter for fiscal 2023 is as follows. Revenue is expected to be 8.1 billion, plus or minus 2%. Now, GAAP and non-GAAP gross margins are expected to be 65.1%. So that's what we want to pay attention to. I'm just not going to talk about non-GAAP at all. I'm just going to focus on GAAP for now. And then let's see. GAAP operating expenses are expected to be approximately 2.46 billion. All right, so what I can do now is I could go right into this Excel spreadsheet. Now I went ahead and input all of those numbers. And then I also reworked the numbers by subtracting, or actually I added back in the expense that we had. So that acquisition fee, so I took it out. So here we have operating expense, and then here I reworked it where I took that out. And then you can see that operating margins were actually 39%. So right here it was 23%. So it really looked like we actually reported weaker margins, when in actuality, when I take out the acquisition fee, we actually got 39% operating margin. So how that changes earnings per share, I calculated that right here. So I did the acquisition termination cost, and then I divided that by the diluted shares outstanding, which gave us a change in earnings per share of 53 cents. So our total earnings per share for the quarter is actually $1.17. So here you can see that rework. And then now what I did was I went ahead into their 2022 and grabbed the Q2 numbers so that we can make a comparison for their Q2 guidance. So if we're looking at the comparison, their revenue is going to be higher. So Q2 revenue was 6,507,000,000, and they're expecting 8.1 billion. Now gross margins are pretty much the same here. I mean, no big difference here. Operating expenses are obviously going to be higher in Q2 of 2023 because their revenue is higher. So what we're looking at for operating margins is we're actually seeing 35% for their Q2 guidance, but 2022 their operating margin was actually a little bit higher. So we are expecting this to go down slightly, but not a whole lot. So overall, not too bad. Now, if I'm looking at this revenue metric, what we're looking at for Q1 year over year was actually 46.41%. So Q1 actually did very well on revenue. But if we're looking at Q2 with the guidance, and we're comparing this revenue with that revenue, year over year, we're seeing a 24.48% increase. So, I mean, that's still pretty good. But, I mean, when we're comparing it to what we saw for Q1 was astronomical because Q1, you know, we're a little bit slow. But then in the later half of this year, in 2022, for their fiscal year 2022, they really started picking up revenue and their earnings per share really started picking up. So here in Q2 of 2023, it's going to look like they're not growing as much, but it's still 24.48% year over year. So this is still pretty good in my opinion. So I hope this helped you guys understand just like some of the little nuances in that earnings report. And I know it could be confusing if you just read the headlines and you don't actually jump into the actual financial statement. So hope this was helpful and I hope you guys enjoy.